Let's fucking go! Senator Kelly Loeffler and Raphael Warnock, let's take it to the ring!
The candidates now. They are, in alphabetical order, Republican candidate Kelly Loeffler.
And in the left corner, we have Kelly Loeffler, one of the wealthiest people to ever hold office. I'm pretty sure, isn't she worth $500 million? The person who made a ton of money doing trades off of insider information she was given on the coronavirus before it was broken public. Insider trading, profiting off the death of hundreds of thousands of people. Married to the CEO of the stock exchange, literally a lizard person, Kelly Loeffler.
She was appointed to the U.S. Senate in January of 2020 to replace retiring Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson. She is also part owner of Atlanta's WNBA team, the Atlanta Dream. Democrat candidate Raphael Warnock.
And in the right corner, we have the Raphael Warnock was the one who just tweeted. Wait, I need to get my stuff straight. Raphael Warnock was the person who just tweeted out that they're a pro-choice pastor, right? That was the person who made that tweet. I want to get my mental profiles aligned. Okay, we have the pro-choice, the not quite a leftist, but definitely preferable to Kelly Loeffler, to be honest, everything I've seen about this guy seems pretty positive, not as far left as I would like, but nonetheless infinitely superior to the Republican Party candidate, Raphael Warnock.
Warnock is the senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. Ebenezer, of course, the church where Martin Luther King Jr. was pastor. Let's meet our panel now.
Oh, damn.
Greg Bluestein is a political reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And Lisa Ram is host and senior producer of NPR's Morning Edition on WABE Radio in Atlanta. Now let's get started. The topics were not shared with the candidates in advance. The debate will be divided into 3 rounds. And in each round, candidates will have 60 seconds to answer questions and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. And as moderator, I will determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. In the first round, candidates will be asked 2 questions each. And Greg, you get the first question to Senator Loeffler.
Senator Loeffler, thanks for joining us. President Trump opened his election rally.
This is one of those people, this is a very unique condition, where I feel like they simultaneously look like they're 16 and 40 years old. You know? You know what I'm talking about? Oh, by the way, this is the house Kelly Loeffler lives at, in case you didn't hate her enough. How many of those bricks do you think were paid for from insider trading that she did to profit off of the coronavirus? At least a couple bricks.
Rally last night by falsely claiming he won Georgia. He didn't. According to certified state election results, he lost the state by about...
Wait, that's fake? Oh no, oh no, I'm a liar. I'm a fucking fake newser. No! Where's the real house? I'm a fake newser. I feel like such a buffoon. I've never been lied to on that before. Oh man, if you Google it, there's even the PolitiFact article right off the bat. Oh God. None of those bricks were bought with insider trading. Here's an article actually claiming to be looking at her house, but the images are having trouble loading. Hello! Okay, well that's the inside of a house right there. We can take a little tour, okay? It's not really loading the images. Full screen. All right, well, yeah, very minimalist house. I didn't realize she lived in the White House.
12,000 votes. Do you stand by his narrative that the election was rigged, and do you support his demand that Governor Kemp to call a special session to seek to overturn those results?
Well, first, I want to thank the Atlanta Press Club for hosting this important debate. And look, it's vitally important that Georgians trust our election process. And the president has every right to every legal recourse. And that's what's taking place. But I've called for investigations. And now there's 250 investigations open here in Georgia. But the president was also clear that Georgians need to come out and vote for David Perdue and myself because of what's at stake in this election.
Yes! There are so many people who are angrily protesting the GOP, saying they shouldn't participate in the Georgia runoffs, that she has to clarify in the debate that actually the president does want them to vote for her.
Election. You know, Chuck Schumer said, now we take Georgia, then we change America. We all know what that change would be. They've been very clear. They want to raise taxes on hardworking Georgians. They want to defund the police. They want to open our borders. They want to implement the Green New Deal. I'm fighting for every single Georgian to live the American dream that I was blessed to live.
Senator, did you believe the election was rigged?
Look, Greg, it's very
We're not going to get an answer. We're not going to get an answer.
Clear that there were issues in this election. There are 250 investigations open, including an investigation into one of my opponent's organizations, you know, for voter fraud.
I don't know what she means by 250 investigations. What is an investigation? Like if you go up to the feds and you give them like a crayon doodle and you say, this is what happened at the counting office. Can you look into this? Like, and they say, yeah, is that an investigation? What does that mean? It's interesting. There are so many investigations, and so far it's led to literally no court victories for the Trump administration.
And we have to make sure that Georgians trust this process because of what's at stake in this election. You know, the promise that Chuck Schumer made was to fundamentally change America, and I'm making sure that we don't go down the road of socialism.
Lisa, your turn to ask a question of Reverend Warnock.
Dr. Warnock, good evening.
Good evening.
As a pastor, there are those who are...
I respect Lisa Rayam coming out here in the assassination getup here, the all-black turtleneck to maximize the stealthiness with which you can climb the rafters. Very dangerous, yeah, very powerful.
A little uncomfortable with someone switching from the pulpit to the Senate floor in Washington. If elected, how will you navigate the U.S. Constitution's edict separating church and state?
Thank you so very much. It's wonderful to be here, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in.
That's a very interesting question to ask a Democrat, considering the fact that the Republicans have been spitting on the separation of church and state for a while now. But, I mean, I guess I'm interested in the answer.
Tonight, I also became aware that Senator Loeffler lost a member of her staff, and I want to extend my condolences to her and also to the family of that young man. Listen, my whole life has been about service. It is why I entered into the ministry, and I am running for the United States Senate as a continuation of that life project. The thing about me running for the Senate is that this gives me an opportunity to work on the issues I've been working on for years. I've been fighting for access to affordable health care. I've been fighting for voting rights. I've been fighting for essential workers, ordinary people, because I know what it's like to be an ordinary person. I grew up in public housing, the first college graduate in my family of 12. I'm number 11. And if it were not for Pell Grants, low-interest student loans, I wouldn't be here. I know the importance of good federal policy.
See, Catholic?
Your goal is to work for fighting families, but what does that translate into beyond affordable housing and health care, as you just mentioned?
Well, we got to make sure that we center ordinary people in all of the policy that we do. You know, I grew up with a father and a mother who instilled into me great values. And my dad had a way of saying, get up and put your shoes on. And so he gave me this sense of a work ethic.
Damn.
But if I'm honest, that alone would not put me here on this stage. I mean, here's a kid who grew up in public housing. I'm running for the United States Senate against the wealthiest member of Congress. Only in America is that possible. And I am fighting to make sure that kids like me, whether they're growing up in public housing down in Savannah, Georgia, or...
That was a really, 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 really good line. So what he did right there is he pointed out the fact that his opponent is insanely fucking rich, but he didn't do it in a way that made him look spiteful. he did it in a way that emphasized his work ethic and his belief in the meritocracy of America, which is a lie you have to believe in if you want to get voted in. That was actually a really, really good line right there.
Rural disaffected communities in North Georgia, that they have access to the American dream that I believe so much in. And I'm concerned that Washington is not focused on ordinary people. You can't tell the difference between Washington back rooms and corporate boardrooms. My opponent represents the worst of that kind of problem. And that's why I'm grateful for this opportunity.
I'd like to respond.
Please do.
Thank you. I was born and raised on a farm. I grew up working in the fields. I waitressed my way through school, and I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I worked hard to live the American dream and became a job creator right here in Georgia. But this type of rhetoric is a distraction from the issues at hand. The Democrats want to fundamentally change America, and the agent of change is my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, someone that has attacked.
Radical liberal? Wait, is this where the memes came from? Radical liberal? I saw this shit all over Twitter. What does that mean? I thought I was a radical liberal. I thought I was the rad lib. What does that mean to her? Why not just call him a leftist or socialist or what? What is the messaging here?
Police from the pulpit, someone that has attacked our military, someone that has agreed to raise taxes on hardworking Georgians as much as $2,000 per family off the bats. That's not what Georgians need to get through this pandemic.
Wait, what does that mean? Raise taxes up to $2,000 per family? What tax would... What? That's not how you determine tax bracket raises. What are we talking about?
And get our economy going. I'm fighting for the American dream every day.
Okay, Reverend, you're going to have an opportunity to respond to those things because I know Greg is going to get to them. It's his turn to ask you a question.
Yeah, I have a question on that same topic. You've been attacked for comments you made from the pulpit about law enforcement and the military, foreign policy, among others. You've also said they're taken out of context, but you made these remarks in a public forum. Why shouldn't Georgians take them at face value?
Look, it's clear to me that my opponent is going to work really hard, spending millions of dollars of her own money, trying to push a narrative about me, because she's clearly decided that she does not have a case to be made for why she should stay in that seat. I have worked my whole life to pull people together. I've been working on criminal justice reform. I've worked alongside law enforcement officers to do that work. Several years ago, I actually brought together the law enforcement officers here in this city, the chief of police, the Black Lives Matter activists, the sitting attorney general, families, parents, all in my church, focused on working on these issues that we've seen emerge time and time again. And we need somebody who knows how to bring people together rather than using these issues as a political point to be made. These issues are tragic, and our law enforcement officers lay it on the line every day. They have an ally with me. I just think that you can affirm what law enforcement officers do and hold them accountable.
Senator Loeffler, 30 seconds.
You know, my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock,
He didn't really address the question there.
has called police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, and a threat to our children.
Peace.
When I gave him the chance to apologize in our first debate, he declined. He's also said that you can't serve God and the military. He's used the Bible to justify these types of attacks and make other divisive statements. What we need is someone who can bring together, that can help us get through this pandemic and rebuild our economy across this country and right here in Georgia. That's what I'm fighting to do.
Do you want to put that into context?
Sure, I'd love to respond. Listen.
Oh, that's a question I wish I heard more often. Somebody asking me, do you want to put that into context? Oh, God, if only. That reach.
This is why I think folks have turned off from politics very often, because people will turn anything into a kind of cynical political argument. I was preaching that day.
I'm really sorry. She looks so fucking off-putting, dude. Holy shit. I don't know. Has anyone ever seen that little comic? And the comic says something like, it's something like, if you're a good person, you will never be ugly. Like, even if you're very pretty, if you have evil thoughts, it'll make you look evil. Does anyone know? There's like this cute little 4-panel comic or something like that. It's like for kids. Like, it's something about how like there's a radiant energy of kind people. It's just interesting because so many like Republicans just radiate. It's from Roald Dahl. Gotcha. If anyone can find the comic, that'd be great. Roald Dahl, gotcha. That's hating on ugly people? Well, no, the point would be that the only people who are ugly are evil people. That would be the point. So it would actually be the opposite. Here we go. What is it? If a person has ugly thoughts, it begins to show. No. If a person has ugly thoughts, it begins to show on the face. And when that person has ugly thoughts every day, every week, every year, the face gets uglier and uglier until it gets so ugly you can hardly look at it. A person who has good thoughts cannot ever be ugly. And the comic showed, like, here we go. I think it's a really, really cute comic, personally. There we go. A person who has good thoughts can never be ugly. You can have a wonky nose and a crooked mouth and a double chin and stick out teeth, but if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams and you will always look lovely. And I think it's like a really nice message, right? Like, if you have a good vibe, I guess, if you have a good attitude or aura or whatever, then it emanates from you. And I think there's some truth to that as well. Because there are, I don't know, dude. When I see, I see this a lot with Fox News anchors. There are a lot of really attractive, like conventionally attractive people that work with the GOP, and they just radiate so much unpleasantness just by looking at them. Even if I came into this not knowing who was the person who was the Democrat and who was the Republican, I would look and I would get like a feeling. Like, can't you feel it? I don't know.
From a very familiar
Am I doing phrenology right now? I don't know. Just
Matthew text that says you can't serve God and mammon. It was a sermon about a moral foundation for everything that we do, and that when you have everything in order, that actually makes you a better soldier. It also makes you a better senator. And had Kelly Loeffler listened to the sermon rather than trying to make a cheap political point, she would not have used her advantage as a U.S. senator to make millions on a pandemic while playing it down to the people she was supposed to be representing.
Lisa,
I'd like to respond.
Oh, go ahead, please.
You know, I'm a Christian. I'm a person of deep faith. I don't need a lecture from someone who has used the Bible to not only justify attacking our military. That's not in Matthew 6:24. It doesn't say you can't serve the military and God. But he's also used the Bible to justify abortion. I cannot stand by and let Georgians not know who my opponent is, how radical his views are, and how he would fundamentally change.
What has he said that's radical? Also, I noticed she hasn't talked about herself once.
Our country. He's out of step with Georgia's values.
All right. In the second round, you'll get a chance to ask questions of each other. Lisa has one last question here for Senator Loeffler.
Senator Loeffler, good evening. State election official Gabriel Sterling proclaimed this has to stop. He was referring to threats against election workers, Governor Kemp, and the Secretary of State who received death threats. Sterling warned that false claims of widespread election fraud could lead to violence. He said somebody's going to get killed. At his urging, you responded by denouncing the violence, but some didn't think that was enough. So tell us tonight, what is your message to those who would threaten officials, and have you made an effort to help lower the temperature on the behalf of the Republican Party?
Well, absolutely. As someone who has been the subject of threats of violence, I absolutely denounce it. But, you know, here's what's at stake. The future of our country hangs on this state having free, fair, trusted elections. We have built an organization within our campaign to make sure that Georgians trust this process. And President Trump has encouraged Georgians to get out and vote because the future of the country is at stake on January 5th. We need folks to trust the process because that's what makes our democracy possible right here. We've got to get to the bottom of these investigations that have started too late. There's 250 investigations, including into Raphael Warnock's voter registration organization for the second time for trying to register voters in New York. That doesn't represent the voice of Georgia. I'm going to fight to make sure that we hold officials accountable.
Wait, what? register voters in New York? Wait, how is that against the law? Even if you're a Georgia senator, you can still have an organization that encourages people to get registered to vote in New York. What? I don't even know what that's referring to. Also, I like how the question was about what she's done to play down people's fears, and she responded by saying how necessary it is. We investigate all the fraud, the stolen election.
For carrying out free, fair, trusted elections that are accurate.
Trusted elections. By the way, this is a bullshit talking point. Because Tim Pool did this in his debate with Destiny. This is some shit I'm not going to tolerate, okay? They're going to say that by the GOP promoting this narrative that the election was stolen, they are actually ensuring trust in the election process. Because what they're doing is taking everybody's concerns and investigating them to the fullest extent, rather than repeatedly lying, misrepresented, overplaying, and downright delegitimizing the election process. That is going to be a big talking point from now on. You can bet me. I'll bet my life on it. One of you can come to my house and kill me if I'm wrong. Over the next 4 years, a bunch of Republicans are going to say, dude, the GOP wasn't delegitimizing the election process. No, the GOP was trying to ensure trust in the process. The real thing that reduced trust in the process was all the funny stuff the Democrats were doing. It's going to be the line.
Reverend, I want to ask you about this election. Much has been made of President Trump's refusal to concede, but 2 years ago, Stacey Abrams refused to concede the governor's race, saying that there was voter suppression. Do you think there was voter suppression 2 years ago, and do you think this election has been fair?
Listen, voter suppression is something that happens all across our country. It's happened here in the state of Georgia. But Stacey Abrams did not refuse to acknowledge the fact that her opponent was the governor. Here we are several weeks after the election, and Kelly Loeffler continues to cast doubt on an American democratic election. It's time to put this behind us and get focused on the concerns of ordinary people. While she's playing political games, trying to represent somebody who doesn't live in Georgia, Georgians are wondering when are they going to get some COVID-19 relief. They're wondering who is going to put small businesses in front of the large corporate giants. And they're wondering when are we going to call the people, give the people we call essential workers an essential wage. I want to go to the United States Senate to stand up for ordinary people. And when politicians aren't satisfied with the voters, they try to pick their voters. And that's what's going on right now.
May I respond?
Please.
Radical liberal Raphael Warnock.
Radical liberal. Oh, man. I really, really have to wonder how brain dead Republicans have to be to watch performance like this and not feel as though they're being led along by a string when they hear people pull out these canned talking points over and over and over again. Radical liberal. What does that even mean to her? I don't even know. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what she means when she says that. Do they? Why not call him a socialist? I genuinely don't understand. Like, they've been demonizing socialism for decades. They call Joe Biden a communist. Why not just call him a socialist or a communist or something? Why bring out radical liberal? That's just, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I think he's actually handling this really, really, really well. He's pointing out that this bitch's priorities are pretty exclusively to demonize her opponent and to serve the president, not to serve the people of Georgia. I think that's actually a really good rhetorical line for him.
Has partnered with Stacey Abrams in these voter suppression conspiracies when in fact we have record turnout in our state year after year. And, you know, it's unfortunate that the focus is on a debate about who won the election when this process is still playing out. And President Trump has every right to every legal.
She also looks really, really strung out, too. Like, the I don't know, the way she's staring is very off-putting. Like an NPC on a really weird animation loop.
Recourse. But we also have to make sure that Georgians know that we have a process that works, that their vote is counted, and that no illegal votes are counted. And that's what I'm going to continue to fight for, to make sure that Georgians know everything is at stake in this election, the future of our country, not just the radical ideas of the left, but the radical candidates who would defund the police, who would stand by and attack our military, and then withdraw funds that would support Chuck Schumer's defunding of our military by 25%. And I'm going to continue to make sure that we come back from this virus strong. I'm the only candidate.
Continue to come back from this virus strong. I will, Kelly Loeffler, as your senator, will ensure that we continue with our so far highly successful approach to dealing with the coronavirus. You know,
Qualified to help rebuild our economy and get past this pandemic.
All right. We want to get to the point where you can ask each other questions. That does conclude the first portion of this debate. For people just tuning in, you're watching the runoff debate for one of Georgia's 2 U.S. Senate seats. We move now to the second round, where the candidates will ask each other a question. Candidates have 30 seconds to ask a question, 30 seconds to respond to their opponent's answer. Reverend Warnock, you get the first question to Senator Loeffler.
Thank you so much. Senator Loeffler, when you received the private briefing regarding the coronavirus pandemic, you dumped millions of dollars of stock in order to protect your own investments. And then weeks later, when there came an opportunity to give ordinary Georgians an extra $600 of relief, you said you saw no need and called it counterproductive. Why do you think it's counterproductive to help ordinary Georgians in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, thank you for that question, because I've been completely...
Oh, she's so mad. Look at her.
The pandemic.
Well, thank you for that question, because I've been completely exonerated. Those are lies perpetrated by the left-wing media and Democrats to distract from their radical agenda. Since I got to the Senate, I've worked hard to deliver relief to Georgians during this pandemic, and I'm continuing to do that.
How?
But look what Democrats have done. They have stood for stonewalling relief that I voted for twice in the Senate, to deliver relief to families, to farmers, to schools and hospitals. They're playing politics. That's what they're using their lies to cover up. The fact that they don't have a positive agenda to lift Georgians up. They want to defund the police, raise your taxes, implement the Green New Deal that would crush jobs and opportunity.
Literal NPC, literal dialogue tree. I don't know how Republicans can watch this and think like this is anything other than pathetic. I legitimately don't know. Like, I really, the more I watch stuff like this, the more I fall back on very essentialist perspectives on IQ and political affiliation, okay? I have to say, because like every time I watch Trump talk, or any time I watch like Purdue talk, or anytime I watch Loeffler or any of these people, like in their debates, I just can't fathom watching it and being a person capable of putting my clothes on in the morning and supporting them.
And what I'm working on is making sure that we can get the economy going again, that we can drive forward after this pandemic. And I've been working side by side for my colleagues to make sure that we get that done, and we have delivered results. $47 billion that I brought here to Georgia saved 1.5 million jobs at small businesses.
Reverend, you
so didn't answer the question at all, and called the fact that she did insider trading a lie, which is not the case. It is not a lie.
You have 30 seconds to respond if you'd like.
Listen, I do not want to defund the police, and Kelly Loeffler knows it. But she keeps saying this because she wants to distract from her own record. The truth of the matter is, were it left up to her, Georgians would not have received the $600 of expanded unemployment insurance. And they haven't seen any relief in months. And she hasn't done anything. She's done nothing to provide relief for ordinary people, the folks I'm seeing all across this state who are in pain in the middle of this pandemic.
That's really good, focusing on the central point. One thing that I would like to see, what I think is important, is making predictions. So if he said something like, now watch, as this debate goes on, I'm going to ask her more questions about her record, and then she's going to not answer and try to talk about Democrats in general. You can watch, she's going to do it. And then he says that, you prime the audience to look for it. And then every time she does it in the future, he can then respond, you did it again, and then go forward. Stuff like that, doing the JoJo, what you're going to say next is X thing, very, very, very effective at priming an audience to negatively impress what you're about to say.
Senator Loeffler, it's your turn to ask a question of Reverend Warnock.
Reverend Warnock, in your writings and
Why
your
do you want to
teachings,
defund the police?
you've repeatedly praised Marxism and the redistribution of income. Can you here and now, for all Georgians, renounce socialism and Marxism?
Listen, I believe in our free enterprise system, and my dad was a small business owner. And during the Great Recession, you know what I was doing? I was leading my church to build a community center where, among other things, we had a financial literacy center that taught people how to repair their credit, create a 700 credit score community, how to create a business, how to buy a home, how to participate in our free enterprise system. Kelly Loeffler, on the other hand, was teaching the big banks how to hide their investments offshore in the Cayman Islands. This is how she spent her career before she went to the Senate. This is what she's been focused on now that she's in the Senate. She was only there 3 weeks. I'm not sure she was fully unpacked when she started dumping millions of dollars of stock trying to protect herself. And she purchased that seat. It's done well for her. The issue is that the people who sold it to her don't own it. And the people of Georgia are coming back to get their seat.
It wasn't really a full answer. It was rhetorically effective, though. Does anyone know what she's referring to when she's talking about him embracing Marxism or whatever? Like, I assume it's based on something. Like, somewhere in a writing, he said that Marx cared about poor people. I don't know, something like that. She referred to Castro visiting his church sometime in the past. Okay. I believe in a book he wrote, he praised a sociologist named Gary Marx. Yes. Will you renounce Joseph Marx, your auto mechanic who fixed your windshield wipers last year? Yeah.
Senator, you have 30 seconds.
Well, predictably, you've just heard more lies from radical liberal Raphael Warnock, who wants to distract from his own words, calling police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, and a threat to our children,
What does
saying
that
that
have
you
to do?
can't serve God and the military, for his attacks on Israel. You know, what I'm focused on is making sure that we continue to deliver relief. I've already delivered relief for 174,000 small businesses, $7 billion for hospitals. And when the government didn't move quickly enough, I purchased PPE out of my own funds, drove it to hospitals. I donated to hospitals, and I donate my salary to charities across.
Okay, donating to charities doesn't mean shit. What is it? I'm sorry, wait, hold on. This is from kellyforsenate.com. Maybe not the best source. Oh, here's Kelly Loeffler's husband purchasing stock in personal protective equipment, so making money off the pandemic some more. Downplay the coronavirus. Interesting. The only result that turns up her delivering PPE to a hospital is the one on her own campaign website.
Toss a coin to your streamer, oh, viewers of plenty.
Delivered personal protective equipment to frontline workers at Northeast Georgia Medical Center. Wait, it was just one hospital? Wait, is that it? If I run for... if I bring like a box full of masks to a hospital and then run for office, can I say that I was delivering PPE all over the country? Did she say one hospital or did she say multiple?
And when the government didn't move quickly enough, I purchased PPE out of my own funds, drove it to hospitals. I donated to
Hospital. Not plural. You drove to one hospital. Yeah, I don't know.
hospitals, and I donate my salary to charities across Georgia. I'm here working for Georgia.
Reverend Warnock, your turn to ask
What was that finish?
Across Georgia. I'm here working for Georgia.
Reverend Warnock.
Was she about to throw up? Wait, what was that?
To charities across Georgia. I'm here working for Georgia.
Jesus Christ. She looks like she just felt a fucking gun barrel pressed up against the back of her neck. What the fuck? Did you see that? She did the face you do when like somebody kicks your leg under the table to get you to shut the fuck up. She's vomiting battery acid. Yeah, what the fuck was that?
Reverend Warnock, your turn to ask a second question of the senator.
Yeah, my question is pretty simple. Yes or no, Senator Loeffler, did Donald Trump lose the recent presidential election?
Oh.
You know, President Trump has every right to use every legal recourse available. In our own state, we've seen time and again that we have investigations that need to be completed. In fact, we've run 2 audits,
Yes
and
or
those
no?
audits discovered thousands of ballots across several counties here in Georgia that were not counted. I've called for a signature audit. We need to hold folks accountable involved in these investigations to make sure that they move more quickly, because everything's at stake on January 5th for the future of our country. If the Democrats win, they will defund the police. They'll keep our country locked down. They want more lockdowns.
So this is only effective if Warnock can respond to it by saying something like, I see your masters have told you not to answer this question, or something like that. Or I see you haven't been given the clear by the GOP to answer this question. If he could respond with something like that, that is a devastating, because the question is only the setup. You have to follow it up, because he knew she wasn't going to answer yes or no.
They'll raise your taxes in the middle of a pandemic, and they'll continue to keep the borders open and support taxpayer funding for illegal immigrant health care. And they'll defund our military by 25%.
How many times is she going to keep
radical
saying?
liberal Raphael Warnock
Yeah.
would be a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer, because he's bought and paid for by tens of millions of dollars from out of state, dark liberal money from Chuck Schumer.
Dark liberal money from Chuck Schumer. Okay.
30 seconds.
You know, I've been moving all across this state, especially going to rural areas. And when I go to these small towns, they're surprised that I'm there. I'm surprised that they're surprised they haven't seen a U.S. senator. And they're wondering why their hospitals are closing, why Kelly Loeffler doesn't think it's a good idea to make sure that they have health care in the middle of a pandemic. We refuse to expand Medicaid in the state. 9 of our hospitals are
What are these
closing,
visual
have
glitches?
closed, and they're wondering who in Washington is looking out for them.
Senator Loeffler, you get the final question in this.
He could have followed up
Reverend
way
Warnock.
better there.
You were arrested for obstructing police in the in the child abuse investigation. Can you tell me the nature of this child abuse?
What a weak delivery, dude. Wait, can I hear that one again? Oh, you know she was chewing on that one for the whole minute waiting to say it.
You were arrested for obstructing police in the in the child abuse investigation. Can you tell me the nature of this child abuse? Why were the police called? What was your knowledge or involvement in this incident?
Sure, here are the facts, and Kelly Loeffler actually knows them. I was working and trying to make sure that young people who were being questioned by law enforcement had the benefit of counsel, a lawyer, or a parent. And the law enforcement officers actually later thanked me for my cooperation and for helping them. She knows this, but the question is, why is she doing this? It is because she has made a calculation that after being in the Senate for 10 months, she does not have a case to be made for why the people of Georgia should keep her there. She has been focused on the same thing she's focused on her whole life, herself. During the recession, she was helping billionaires like her hide their money in the Cayman Islands. She dumped millions of dollars of stock, played it down, and then when she could help ordinary people, she didn't do it. And the people of Georgia haven't seen relief for months. And so she's spending her millions of dollars focused on me because she has no case to make for herself. I think that's sad, but that's no reason for her to keep a Senate seat.
You have a rebuttal.
You've just heard radical liberal Raphael Warnock
Jesus.
lie again and not answer a question, an important question that Georgians deserve to have the answer to.
Man, if she's really trying to call him out for insincerity, it makes her look really bad that she sounds like, first of all, that he directly answered, and second of all, that she sounds like a fucking robot, okay? Who was the guy? Was it Marco Rubio who sounded like a robot back in the 2016 presidential primaries for the GOP? where he kept over and over again, he would be like, and let us dispel the idea that it is a fiction that Barack Obama does not know what he's doing, or something like that. Yeah, and then he got called out. We get it, you watch Destiny? Wait, did Destiny do... Wait. I fucking hate you people. It's a relevant reference. I haven't watched fucking Destiny viewing this. Fuck you. Jesus Christ. I'm just I'm sorry. My bad that I'm referencing another instance of a person behaving robotically during a prominent political show. But no, okay, that's fine. Here, wait, hold on. Let me distinguish myself from Destiny further by being tall. There we go. There, here we go. Now we're standing up straight, so we're not no more confusion. Here we go.
Unfortunately, this is consistent with his track record of disrespecting law enforcement. Anyone in Georgia can read the police report as to what happened in this child abuse investigation at his church camp.
Vosh has no rebuttal, so he becomes tall.
Georgians deserve answers, but they also deserve someone who respects our men and women of law enforcement. You know, he did call police officers gangsters and thugs. He said that we should empty the prisons and in cash bail. He won't keep our communities safe. That's what I'm fighting for.
Senator, thank you. That does conclude our second round. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the runoff debate between candidates for the U.S. Senate seat to fill the Georgia seat that's currently held by Senator Loeffler. We turn back now to the panel to ask questions until we run out of time. As moderator, actually, I'm going to take the privilege of asking a question to the two of you to start this round. Reverend, I'll begin with you.
All right. Destiny viewers, leave
with just
before you get triggered.
Days.
I like Marco Rubio, and he's a smart 7 years. The people of New Hampshire are smart.
By electing someone under Chris Christie's governorship of New Jersey, they've been downgraded 9 times in their credit rating. This country already has a debt problem. We don't need to add to it by electing someone who has experience at running up and destroying the credit rating of his state. Exactly what he's doing.
Here we go.
What he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. He is trying to change this country. He wants America to become more like the rest of the world. We don't want to be like the rest of the world. We want to be the United States of America. And when I'm elected president, this will become, once again, the single greatest nation in the history of the world, not the disaster Barack Obama has imposed upon us.
You see, everybody, I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information, and then the memorized 25-second speech.
Wait, this clip is shit. The point is that Marco Rubio repeated that line like 3 times in a row. Wait, hold on. The point isn't that he did it once. The point is he did it 3 times in a row. Okay, nothing. Never mind. He does it again.
Is exactly what his advisors gave him. See, Marco, the thing is this. When you're president of the United States, when you're a governor of a state, the memorized 30-second speech where you talk about how great America is at the end of it doesn't solve one problem for one person. They expect you to plow the snow. They expect you to get the schools open. And when the worst natural disaster in your state's history hits you, they expect you to rebuild their state, which is what I've done. None of that stuff happens on the floor of the United States Senate. It's a fine job. I'm glad you ran for it, but it does not prepare you for president of the United States.
Jesus.
Chris, your state got hit by a massive snowstorm 2 weeks ago. You didn't even want to go back. They had to shame you into going back. And then you stayed there for 36 hours, and then he left and came back to campaign. Those are the facts. Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason why this campaign...
You know what the shame is, Marco? The shame is that you would actually criticize somebody for showing up to work, plowing the streets, getting the trains run back on time, when you've never been responsible for that in your entire life.
Okay.
He didn't want to go back. That was brutal. And the fact is, I went back, it got done, and here's
something. You didn't want to go back.
I went back. Oh, so wait a second. Is now one of the skills you get as a United States Senator ESP also?
Chris, everybody, you said you weren't going to go back.
The fact is, Marco...
He told everyone he wasn't going to go back, and they had to shame him into going back.
Marco, because...
And then when he decided to go back, he criticized the young lady, saying, what am I supposed to do, go back with a mop?
By the way,
clean up the flooding?
It gets very unruly when he gets off his talking.
Thank you, Governor.
Oh, that was... Oh, God. I wish I was doing this shit. I wish this was my job back in 2016. Oh, my God. Guys, remember back when it was possible for Donald Trump to be on a stage and not be the center of attention? Look at him right here. Look at him. He's just standing there. He doesn't talk the whole damn clip. These debates were brutal. But the thing that Chris Christie did there That's what I'm saying. That is the thing that I would be looking for from Warnock. Chris Christie doesn't just call out Marco Rubio's robotic talking point. He then points it out when he does it again in the future and makes him look like a damn fool. Very effective.
I'm interested in the number that you're comfortable with.
He looks so skinny that, yeah, dude, he's the fucking guys. Listen, all jokes aside, if you're the president of the United States, that's a stressful job. Of course, he's taken more vacation days than any other president in history, but still, listen, if I ever become president, okay, I'm gonna become a fucking dump truck. All right, I don't give a fuck. You think I'm gonna give a fuck about staying trim while I'm the leader of the United States of America? I will become a sphere, and I will personally roll myself out to the fucking Atlantic Ocean, okay? And I will, like a buoy, like a raft, I will float over to the Middle East and personally roll over like a gigantic Katamari Damacy ball until I solve the Middle Eastern democracy crisis, okay? I don't know. Fuck you, just let's continue.
When it comes to coronavirus relief, Senate Majority Leader McConnell seems to favor something like $500 billion. The moderates are talking about $908. 2 months ago, the White House suggested $1.8 trillion, and the Democrats wanted more. How much is required by this moment?
Well, the problem is for months we haven't seen any relief. And we can talk about the numbers. That would be an important part of the conversation. But when we saw relief, we saw the Shake Shacks of the world and Ruth's Chris and the LA Lakers at the front of the line and small businesses at the back of the line. Our frontline workers, our teachers, our police officers, our health professionals need PPE. Our workers need relief. And we need to begin even now, I think, thinking beyond how we survive this pandemic and begin to think about how we survive on the other end of the pandemic. While we're providing relief, I think it's time for us to start thinking about an infrastructure program here in this country that will repair our roads and our bridges, begin to build green energy and green energy jobs, provide jobs with a livable wage, and position our economy to lead into the future.
Can you give me a number?
Look, I think that we should at least make sure that whatever we do, workers are at the center of that relief.
All right. Senator Loeffler, you're in a position to vote on this very soon, perhaps. Janet Yellen has said the country can afford to borrow this money now to get people through this crisis until we're all vaccinated, and that if we don't spend it now, it's going to cost us more in terms of job destruction. Do you agree with that? And what would your number be? What could you live with?
Well, I was pleased to support all the relief packages this spring when we were addressing this virus. Over $3 trillion of relief to Americans, $47 billion that I helped bring right here to Georgia, including $7 billion for hospitals, 174,000 small businesses.
The exact same talking points you've already brought up. First of all, this spring, it's fucking December. Second of all, that is the one bill that was able to get through, the one major relief bill. So what about the rest of it?
Businesses that I brought $15 billion in PPP funds to, saved 1.5 million jobs. And in fact, I voted twice on the Senate floor in recent months to support a package that Democrats have blocked, that Nancy Pelosi has now confirmed that it was playing politics with Americans' lives and livelihoods. She's held up targeted relief that would have gone to hospitals, to schools, to families, to small businesses. That's what I've been fighting for. That's what the Democrats are holding up. And my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, would be a rubber stamp for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi as they try to use this pandemic to put the costs on the back of hardworking Georgians in the form of high taxes to fundamentally change America. And I'm not going to stand by and let that happen. I'm going to make sure that...
By our standards, she might be repeating the same points, but I'm afraid this is exactly the strategy that works for dumbfuck Republicans. Yeah, unfortunately. It's all a cult, right? Like, it doesn't really matter that much. If she had just shown up and just, like, blubbered in front of the mic, do you think it would have changed the outcome of this election at all? I genuinely don't know.
We serve our families and our small businesses right here in Georgia.
Thank you. Lisa, it's your turn to ask a question.
Senator Loeffler, you have called yourself the most conservative candidate in the race. You're also the richest U.S. senator with an estimated net worth of more than $500 million. How will you use your wealth and your privilege to improve the life of the average Georgian, the one who makes minimum wage, and more specifically, minorities who feel you have not made an attempt to meet them where they are?
Well, first of all, I have been blessed to live the American dream, and that's what I'm fighting for every single day in Washington, because I was born and raised on a farm. I grew up working in the fields. I started filling out a time card when I was 11. I waitressed my way through high school and college, and I was...
How big was that farm, by the way? So she says she grew up on a farm, but today, growing up on a farm doesn't mean you're a farmhand. It means that you're the child of the owners of the farm. If it's a big enough farm, then it could conceivably be you're actually quite wealthy, you know. Does anyone know what the size of this farm was, or what the... I guess I could look it up later.
I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I know what it means to live paycheck to paycheck. I've done it. And I also know I'm blessed to live the American dream, and that's why I'm fighting to protect it. That's why conservative values matter, to uphold the Constitution. Our freedoms are under attack.
By the way, I don't believe her for a fucking second when she says she's had to live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe like in college, her parents didn't give her much money, so she had to ration out how many times she could go out drinking per week, okay? The idea that this woman has ever experienced substantive financial hardship is something that I would need to have shown to me.
In this country, the religious freedom, the right to life, the Second Amendment.
New, Loeffler's family has taken millions in farm subsidies as she rails against relief for out-of-work Georgians. Wow, that's crazy. So, here's the thing. If your family's farm is large enough that it's able to take millions in subsidies, it's probably a big-ass farm. Wonder how many farmhands they had. Taken in more than $3.2 million in federal benefits since 1995. Including over $750,000 since 2018, so it's even been ramping up lately. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe she just grew up on this massive, highly subsidized farm and actually did work paycheck to paycheck for a while before getting into the finance industry. I don't know. Working for Citibank and Toyota, yeah.
And that's what helps create opportunity for all Georgians to live freely. But my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, is a socialist. He supports policies that would...
Wait, is he a radical liberal or is he a socialist? Why call him radical liberal if you're also going to call him a... I know, it doesn't... Words mean nothing. I don't know why I care.
Grow our government, bankrupt hardworking families with high taxes. The cost of the Green New Deal on every Georgian family would be $75,000, and taxes would go up $2,000 per family. That's why I'm focused on helping every single Georgian succeed.
Have you reached out to minority communities to hear their issues and what they're thinking and what they're feeling?
Absolutely. I have built...
Did I just see her smile? Hold on.
Single Georgian succeed.
Have you reached out to minority communities to hear their issues?
What was that? What is that expression she did at the end of that?
Georgian succeed.
Have you reached out to
Thinking of eating Warnock?
minority communities to hear their issues and what they're thinking and what they're feeling?
Absolutely. I have built my career based on bringing folks together to lift everyone up. That's what I've done from day one. In fact, I just introduced my prosperity plan that would bring much needed capital, access to capital to small businesses and minority communities, because our country...
What was it called?
Access to capital. Prosperity plan.
Prosperity plan. Let's see. Loeffler releases prosperity plan to empower minority communities. Whoa! And this is, of course, from loeffler.senate.gov. Do we have any other Twitter, Facebook? No, there's no other source to this. No news article or media breaking this down. Wow, this site's hard to read. We will expand access to the capital required to support minority-owned businesses, create jobs, and promote economic revitalization. $7 billion to the community development finance institutions. Communities. Opportunity zones. Yes. Debt relief, CARES Act. Here's the full prosperity plan. I like how this came out 6 days, 4 days before her debate with a black reverend in the state of Georgia, you know? Talk about pandering, dude. Fuck me. Oh, yeah, dude. I have my anti-racism plan right here that I've busted out for you right before the election where I compete against a black guy in Georgia. Economic prosperity, access to capital. Oh, God, kill me. Broadband infrastructure. Okay. End all federal funding of abortions and prevent the abortion industry from targeting vulnerable families and communities by passing my Women's Right to Know Act. I gotta read the fine print, baby. There we go. By the way, there already isn't any federal funding for abortions, is there? Doesn't Planned Parenthood fund its abortions through donations? There's already no federal funding for it. Yeah. So, okay. Protect the First Amendment rights of churches to exercise religious liberty in the public square. Hold on. In what state is it illegal for for churches and faith-based adoption agencies? What? To exercise religious liberties in the public square. Support the nuclear family unit. Protect women's and girls' sports. Oh my God, dude. Yeah, I'm just passing this anti-racist pro-minority investment bill. Don't look at the fine print or anything like that. The bill makes it a violation of federal law for a recipient of federal funds who operates, sponsors, or facilitates athletic programs or activities to permit a person whose sex is male to participate in an athletic program or activity designed for women or girls. There you go, people. Yep. We care. Guys, it's not a TERF. She's not a feminist. TERFs are people who misuse feminist language to attack trans people. Just a transphobe. Just a bigot. Just a conservative. I like that. I'm glad we took the time to read this, by the way. Yes, the Prosperity Plan for Underserved Communities. Here we have my Beat China Act. Reduce unnecessary and burdensome government regulations that prevent businesses from... deregulating business. Truly what the black community has always needed. No trans people in women's sports. Nuclear family unit. End federal funding to abortion, even though that's already not a thing. Quote-unquote protecting churches. Let's go even further. Break up and prosecute gang networks such as MS-13 and the Aryan Brotherhood by passing my Cracking Down on Gangs and Deporting Criminals Act. Okay. Hey, Tom Cotton co-sponsored this bill. That's crazy. Like that. Why would Tom Cotton go after the Aryan Brotherhood? Increase support and funding for law enforcement. That's what the minority community needs. Provide more tools and funding for prosecutors defending the rule of law and withhold funding from rogue prosecutors acting as... Jesus Christ! Withhold funding from prosecutors acting as political advocates or activists? You mean withhold funding from prosecutors who aren't conservative? Pass my Holding Rioters Accountable Act. Guys, 10% of this bill is empowering black people. 90% of it is just a hodgepodge of fascist legislation. Jesus Christ. Far left extremist group who are promoting anarchy. protect the right of law-abiding citizens to exercise their Second Amendment rights. I don't know how they aren't already. Yeah, so this is, yeah. And they dress it up and they give it a nice name like the Prosperity Plan, 3 priorities to empower underserved communities. I need to be perfectly clear, okay? This country can't survive as long as Republicans continue to exist and have power within it, okay? As long as Republicans have power in this country is a ticking time bomb to disaster. It is not a matter of reconciliation or compromise. They are deliberately and maliciously killing all of us. And as far as I'm concerned, exercising every legal means possible to excise them from political relevance is a matter of self-defense. Oh, wait, I get it. It said it's 3 priorities to protect minorities, right? Well, Republicans are minorities. They have 10 million fewer members than the Democratic Party. That's the minority they're trying to protect. We'll make you a minority, motherfuckers.
And that would bring much needed capital access.
Wait, can you just admit you think there's no way to help black people from a Republican standpoint? Why even pretend there was anything she could have had in that document that you would have been fine with? Dude! 3/4 of that document was irrelevant, fucking footnoted fascist anti-First Amendment shit. Withhold funding from activist prosecutors? Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, it's not my fault Republicans fucking hate black people, dude. That's not on me. That's not my cross to bear. If they cared about black people, maybe they could introduce legislation to that effect without it, you know, being a fucking Trojan horse for fascism. It's not hard. Just make bills like, hey, infrastructure investment in X community, jobs programs, business revitalization. You can do it. It's not hard. Economists have been calling for it for half a century. It's not my fucking fault they keep fucking it up. They don't care about black people, and they never will.
To capital, to small businesses and minority communities, because our country has failed in that area. That's one way we can help. We can also make sure that we protect school choice. The Democrats would overturn school choice, trapping children, their destiny for education within their zip code.
What if we improved the schools?
I'm fighting to make sure that we fund school choice and support kids to live their dream, to have that.
By the way, school choice is objectively a broken program. I looked into it. It's been used in Sweden there, and apparently it's a disaster. Even with Sweden being a substantially better invested, better infrastructure, more public funding, even in Sweden, it is a non-functioning program. It's unwieldy, it's impractical. The better solution is just to make sure that all school districts are as good as they possibly can be. Not to say, hey kids, want to drive 40 minutes every day both ways to go to a different school district that has more federal funding put into it? Yeah, go for it. That's the solution. Just move.
Education. But I'm also making sure we keep taxes low. The taxes, the Jobs Act that Raphael Warnock would overturn would raise taxes on single moms making $39,000 with 2 kids. Their taxes would go up 20%. That's not a way to help hardworking families here in Georgia succeed.
Greg Bluestein, your turn to ask a question.
Yeah, and this next question is for both candidates. We'll start with Reverend. Do you plan to accept a coronavirus vaccine when public health experts declare it to be safe? And if so, how do you plan to persuade the public to take it?
Absolutely. When our health professionals tell us that we have a vaccine that works and is effective and safe, I will take it. I will encourage the folks who listen to me, people who are in my church and in the community to take it. But also I will try to work hard as a senator to make sure that communities that are so often marginalized don't find themselves at the back of the line again, that they have access to the vaccine. So often they find themselves at the back of the line. And I've spent my life standing up, fighting for ordinary people. Kelly Loeffler is trying to misrepresent me because she knows that she has spent the first 10 months, all 10 months of her tenure, thinking about herself. She's the unelected senator of Georgia. She was appointed. The people of Georgia have been disappointed. And they're looking for somebody who'll stand up for ordinary people. I've spent my life doing that. as a citizen, and I'll do it as a U.S. Senator.
You have 30 seconds to respond to that before Greg asks his question of you.
You know, I have spent every single day working for Georgians. I'm 100% about Georgia. That was my calling to public service. I was blessed to live the American dream, and I want Georgians to live theirs. I was a job creator right here in Georgia. I'm the only person in this race that knows how to help Georgians. I've created jobs. He's never created a job in his life, but yet he's advocated for high taxes that would crush small businesses and families seeking that opportunity. He would take away school choice for kids who want to have that leg up, and he would play politics just as Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have done, holding up relief for political reasons, and I think that's completely wrong.
Greg?
Yeah, a reminder of the question, do you plan to accept the coronavirus vaccine if public health experts say it's safe? And if so, how do you intend to persuade the public to take it?
Absolutely. I was with Vice President Pence on Friday at the CDC. I could not be more proud of what we've done this year to deliver relief, but also get cures, vaccines and therapies that are effective. And so I'm going to encourage my fellow Georgians to stay safe, to get that vaccine. And we have a great plan to prioritize those communities who need it most, and we will make sure that that's carried out. But my opponent will continue to play politics with the pandemic.
Okay, as a general rule, when a politician uses the term plays politics as an insult to their opponent, they're probably a fucking idiot, okay? What do you think your job is? Unironically, what do you think? There is literally no entity in the world, no profession, no individual more entitled to play politics than elected representatives. It's such a stupid point. There's some legitimate criticism to be had that, like, you're little fingering your way through political discourse without actually helping anyone. But generally speaking, like, it's a meaningless buzzword when somebody says you're playing politics, used to obfuscate the actual matter being discussed. It's popular with voters. It's popular with Republican voters. Republicans are the ones who say X or Y are playing politics. Nobody, they apparently don't care about the hundreds of bills sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, you know. They clearly don't give a fuck about that. They only care about when politicians get too political.
Telling lies and trying to achieve political objectives that would try to radically change our country at a moment.
Yeah, like she's saying, like, you're playing politics because you're trying to change lives and change the country. What do you think? What do you think your job is?
Of a pandemic, I'm going to continue to fight for every single Georgian to have the freedoms and the opportunities that they deserve and not be crushed by big government that would have government mandated health care, that would provide free health care for illegal immigrants, that would raise their taxes to pay for government health care, and that would bankrupt Medicare. I'm making sure that Georgians have the resources they need while we keep our taxes and our government low and small.
Lisa, it's your turn to ask a question.
Dr. Warnock.
By the way, there's a reason you want to do that, especially with COVID-19. Guys, what do you think this country's going to look like if we only give citizens the vaccine, none of the illegal immigrants? How do you think that's going to pan out? Nothing's going to change, because we still have a bunch of people running around doing work, contributing to this country, and they're sick. Generally speaking, countries benefit when as many people inside of them are as productive as possible. Generally speaking. So if you allow disease and unproductivity to fester, even if it's amongst non-citizens, you're only hurting everybody else.
Katina Stravalakis is an Atlanta business owner who had to close her doors because she was unable to pay thousands in back rent due to the pandemic. President-elect Joe Biden considers it a top priority to get a generous stimulus package through Congress, and you have said you support that. But if you were to speak to Katina, what would you ensure her that you would do in Washington to help her and other business owners get the help that they need?
Well, my dad was a small business owner. And so I understand the struggle that small business owners have. And I spent time in my church creating a financial literacy center that helps people to get started. And so I think a good sign of what someone will do in office is what they were doing before they ever went into office. And I've spent my whole career standing up for ordinary people, trying to, and in fact, we had a job center in my church, contrary to what Senator Loeffler is trying to suggest. And I have stood up for ordinary workers time and time again. You know, during this pandemic, we call people essential workers. We ought to pay them an essential wage. And we ought to provide small business owners like her the assistance and the support that they need.
One of the things that I really think hurts leftists when it comes to like public policy and general advocacy, a lot of lefties don't talk about small business owners, or when they do, they talk about them contemptuously. Now, of course, in a class relations sense, if you're a common worker, if you're an employee, it doesn't matter whether or not your despot is a small business owner or a massive corporate CEO hierarchy with a manager at the bottom. From your perspective, it's the same. But you have to recognize a lot of people have small businesses. And small businesses generally run on pretty slim margins, too. I think it's important that the left try to... By definition, small business owners aren't part of the proletariat, so it's not exactly a class warfare bent, but I think you can distinguish pretty clearly between the benefits of small business economies and like the tyranny of massive multinational corporations, you know? I think that distinguishing between those two things would be optically effective, much like the left not performatively hating the United States quite as much. You know, they say when fascism comes to America, you get it wrapped in a flag. Probably works the same with socialism, right? You don't even call it socialism. One of these days, we're going to get some fucking politician who's going to go up to Washington wrapped in a flag, pins, Christian, Bible, all that, and they're going to talk about radical capitalism. Under radical capitalism, which promotes small business ownership, everybody owns a stake in the corporation that they're a part of. This isn't your regular grandma's capitalism. This is super capitalism. In fact, it's so capitalistic that it is relegated exclusively to markets which best take advantage of the benefits of market economies. That is to say, luxury goods and commodity production. Whereas other things, transportation, healthcare, these things get decommodified because listen, baby, those roads, they ain't smooth enough for the good old capitalism car to drive down. No. We're driving with no brakes, baby. Under super capitalism? No. We're not going to use super capitalism on something like healthcare. What? That doesn't work. The supply-demand curve's all fucked because of the demand inelasticity. You don't want that. No. We do super capitalism on luxuries, commodity goods, and everyone gets a stake of the pie. Super capitalism, baby. And then America becomes the most capitalist nation on earth in text, but actually becomes a worker state. I'm just saying, like, language has no meaning. Please continue, Mr. Warnock.
Kelly Loeffler's out of touch. She's thinking about people who are like her. And I'm okay with the fact that she wants to make money. I just think you shouldn't use the people's seat to enrich yourself. You ought to use the people's seat to represent the people.
I'd like to respond.
Please do.
Look,
no, the capitalist class would never allow this. Yeah, then we'd call them socialists. The capitalists would be like, no, we want to retain our control over private property. And then we'd be like, ha, you fucking socialist. You want it all for yourself like a fucking collectivist, don't you? Sorry, Grandpa. Radical capitalism is rolling through.
these are more lies from radical liberal Raphael Warnock.
Dude, is she broken? Jesus Christ.
Someone that has invited Fidel Castro, a murderous dictator, into his own church. Someone that has celebrated anti-American, anti-Semite Jeremiah Wright. You know, he has also said that police officers are gangsters and thugs and refused to apologize for it. He said
Dude,
that
she literally, the script, she literally just has a script. She doesn't even segue into it or like maintain any cohesive discussion. She just broken record, broken ass Skyrim NPC dialogues her way through the entire goddamn tree.
You can't serve God and the military. He has actually made sure that we know who he is in his own words. Those aren't.
What do you think a person like Kelly Loeffler does for fun? Epstein's Island. I just can't imagine people like this enjoy anything other than people suffering. Can you guys imagine? Can you imagine Loeffler like playing a video game or like enjoying a movie or something like that, or like hanging out with friends? I can't imagine it personally. I think that for people like this, nothing other than the unimaginable suffering of others means anything to them. You know, that's the only thing they can experience any joy from anymore.
My words. I'm working hard to serve Georgians. I've served thousands of Georgians, and I'm so proud to represent this state and help Georgians through this challenging time.
Well, Reverend, as I understand it, you were a young man in that church in New York. Would you like to respond to the suggestion that you invited him?
There's a lot at stake right now in the middle of this pandemic, and it's too bad that she's engaged in the politics of distraction and division. I never met him. I never invited him. He has nothing to do with me. If you want to know who informs me and my sense of how we engage as people in the economic system, you need look no further than Matthew 25. I'm a Matthew 25 Christian. That's what I am. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was sick and you visited me. Love your neighbor. And for me, that means you don't get rid of your neighbor's health care, particularly in the middle of a pandemic.
Greg.
May I respond?
Go ahead.
Look, I'm not going to be lectured by...
Are you ready? I'm not going to be lectured by somebody who called cops gangsters and thugs, who said you can't serve the military and God, who invited Castro into his church, who is a radical liberal. I'm ready for it. Hit me with it.
Someone that uses the Bible to justify abortion, to attack our men and women in the military. You know, what's happening here is someone who will not own up to their own record of division. He has called on Americans to repent for their worship of whiteness. That's divisive.
What?
That's hurtful. He celebrated
I would be very surprised if he ever said anything like that. Hold on. Wait. Oh! Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
This program is brought...
Like scrolling through all that. Somebody lied and told them that uniformity, that sameness, that homogeneity was the key to their survival. Somebody lied and told them that diversity was the threat to their identity. God made all human beings in God's image, adding that it was humans who decided some human beings are better than other human beings. That's a construction. It's called bigotry. It's called racism and sexism, misogyny and xenophobia. Race is not a biological factor. It's a sociological construct. God made us, but we make stuff up. We have constructed towers of domination that lift up a few structures of evil that God never intended in the first place. When the quality of your education and access to basic... God, isn't it incredible how when you look into the background of Republicans, they're all like fucking vampiric, like predatory, like business moguls. And when you look into the background of even just like better than average Democrats, they're like perfect human. No, I'm joking. But like compared to Republicans, like holy fuck, the record of some of these guys is they look like almost angelic in comparison. I mean, it makes sense because he's a pastor, but like when you're being compared to like the stark horror of a Kelly Loeffler senatorial race, somebody like Warnock legitimately does come off like an almost saint-like human being, you know? While she's off there dodging taxes and hoarding money in the Cayman Islands, he's out there preaching, and I respect that shit, you know? I'm not a religious guy or nothing, but I mean, these spitting facts up here. When the quality of your education and access to basic health care is a function of your zip code, the whole city suffers, and the tower tumbles. Okay, where are we getting to the whiteness part? Okay. If it is true that a man who has dominated the news and poisoned the discussion for months needs to repent, then it is doubly true that a nation that can produce such a man and make his vitriol go viral needs to repent. No matter what happens next month, more than a third of this nation would go along with it, is a reason to be afraid. America needs to repent for its worship of whiteness on full display this season. I mean, I completely agree. I can see how other people would get mad over this. The problem... oh, dear. The problem is that whiteness, like the term whiteness, which is a useful academic term, is really easy for stupid people and non-stupid people to misinterpret. But I mean, it says what is said it says. So he's not saying white people, but the concept of whiteness. Yeah, but that's what Kelly Loeffler said. Also, 90% of people, when they hear critiques of whiteness, are going to hear critiques of white people. It's an academic term. It's hard to use in common parlance.
Jeremiah Wright, anti-Semite. He's actually called Israel an apartheid state.
Bro!
That is wrong for America.
Whoa, whoa. How does that make them anti-Semitic? Woo! Hey, guys, just remember, conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is unironically some of the most anti-Semitic shit you can do. If you're calling people anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel, if you're saying that necessarily criticism of an actions of a state are criticism of an ethnic or religious group, you are the one who is reducing them down to the state of Israel. Jews exist before Israel, they existed after Israel, they existed now again before and during Israel. Israel is not the Jewish people. Jewish people are not Israel. They are two separate things. Well, yeah, after, because wasn't Israel, or like the Israelites, that was a thing like 4,000 years ago or something? I meant like after the historic... Okay, nothing. My history's not great, you know.
And I'm going to continue to make sure Georgians understand that that is him in his own words.
Reverend, please respond to the abortion issue in particular.
Well, listen, I have a profound reverence for life and an abiding respect for choice. The question is, whose decision is it? And I happen to think that a patient's room is too small a place for a woman, her doctor, and the U.S. government. I think that's too many people in the room. But those who are concerned about life, and I certainly am, ought to be focused.
That's a really good line, by the way. You want to hit them on the small government, I don't want the government, interfering with my life shit. You do not want to get caught up in the semantics of the philosophy of personhood, okay? Or with the legality of bodily autonomy. You just want simple, this is a very, very tough topic, simple slogans. Yeah, okay.
On the incredibly high rates of infant mortality and maternal mortality in our country. Face. When compared to other developed nations. That's something the government could work on.
Does she need to fart?
And I've been working on it my entire career.
Greg Bluestein.
Senator, President Trump has attacked your closest political ally, Governor Kemp, as hapless. He said he was ashamed to support him. He even invited one of your former rivals to run against him in 2022. Was the president wrong to say that about the governor? And are you concerned his comments could alienate some Republicans in Georgia ahead of the runoffs?
Well, the president has the right to pursue every legal recourse to make sure that this was a free and fair election in Georgia. And we know that these audits have turned up thousands of votes that were initially uncounted. And I've called for a signature audit. And the buck stops with the Secretary of State. He has to run an election that Georgians trust because everything's at stake on January 5th, the future of the country. We can take the path of supporting the American dream, of standing the economy back up and getting through this virus together, or we can take the path of socialism that radical liberal Raphael Warnock wants to bring to our country, increasing our taxes, taking away the private insurance that you get at your jobs and replacing it with government-run health care, turning your doctor's office into the DMV. He would open our borders, grant amnesty, give free health care to illegal immigrants. None of that will help us solve this pandemic and get the economy back on its feet and get kids back in school. And I'm not going to stand by and be lectured by someone that has not done anything for Americans during this pandemic.
But was the president wrong when he called those governors those remarks?
Look, I appreciate the president's...
You can't answer, you little fucking puppet. You fucking dance to the strings. How does it feel? How does it feel to be a senator, to have all the money in the world and still be too weak to even answer a yes or no question? How does that feel? The powerlessness must keep her up at night. That shit must feel really fucking bad. Doesn't matter how much money you have. You haven't been authorized to give these answers. Pathetic.
support of me, and I appreciate the governor's support of me. They both understand what's at stake in this election. That's why they're encouraging Georgians to get out and vote for David Perdue and myself, because we're fighting for Georgians every single day. We're using our private sector experience to make sure that Georgians get back to work and school and church, while the Democrats...
By the way, in case you're wondering why she keeps bringing up the importance of voting for Perdue as well, even though that's a completely separate race, albeit in the same state, the reason she keeps saying that is Perdue is a little bitch baby who backed out of his debate with Ossoff because Ossoff would have choke slammed him into the fucking floor and pile drived him into the core of the earth, where he would have fucking dissolved with the liquid hot magma, okay? So because Perdue did not want to be choke slammed into the planet's core, he backed out of the debate. He like a little soy boy bitch. But because he and Loeffler serve the same masters, Loeffler is now pulling double duty, having to advocate for people to vote for him as well.
Play politics, hold up relief, and try to keep our country locked down. That's just wrong.
Lisa?
Senator Loeffler, expounding on that last question, again, President Trump criticized your governor, Governor Brian Kemp. Governor Kemp appointed you to the Senate. You've criticized the election process as well. So tonight, can you tell us where your loyalty lies as you vie to represent the state of Georgia? Is it with Governor Kemp or President Trump?
Lisa, my loyalties are with Georgia. I had a calling to public service to serve the people of Georgia.
No.
Look, I have lived the American dream. I want to make sure every Georgian can do that. From working on a farm, from waitressing, being the first in my family to graduate from college, I know that, free enterprise is the way to lift everyone up. Not socialism, not high taxes, not big government, not open borders, not the chaos of defunding the police that the left wants, not the lockdowns. I'm making sure that Georgians know what's at stake on January 5th. Our way of life right here in Georgia will radically change, as promised by Chuck Schumer. Now we take Georgia, then we change America. That's...
I noticed she didn't answer the question.
My number one focus, making sure that Georgians know what's at stake. I have served Georgians every single day. It's been my honor, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Well, if everything is at stake on January 5th, that would presume that President Trump has lost. Is that what you're saying?
You know, what's at stake is the Senate majority. This will determine who brings bills to the Senate floor. Mm-hmm. And under the Republican Senate, we've been able to deliver $3 trillion of relief.
Wait, I'm sorry. I think I misheard the question.
Continue to do that.
Well, if everything is at stake on January 5th, that would presume that President Trump has lost. Is that what you're saying?
You know, what's at stake?
Oh, okay. I missed a couple of connecting words there. Ha! That's a good one.
Is the Senate majority. This will determine who brings bills to the Senate floor. And under the Republican Senate, we've been able to deliver $3 trillion of relief to hardworking Americans hard hit by this pandemic, to the frontline workers, to hospitals, to schools. We have to continue to make sure that we open up our economy. The Democrats want to keep this locked down. They want to radically change our country. And their agent of change is radical liberal Raphael Warnock.
I noticed she's not answering the question.
To reimagine police, that is endorsed by organizations whose number one goal is to defund the police. We know the direction the country would take, and we're going to continue to make sure that Georgians understand that our very way of life here in Georgia and across the country is under attack by the left.
Well, not to belabor the point, but all those things that you're warning about would not be happening, presumably, with President Trump as president. So it almost sounds as though you're conceding that
Yes.
part of it has been settled, and now it's important for the Republicans to keep the majority in the Senate to have a divided government.
Well, I saw firsthand that the Senate is the shock absorber in this country. And I saw that firsthand when I got to Washington and the impeachment trial started. I saw the Russia hoax and how that distracted us from addressing this virus. The Democrats have played...
Wait. How the fuck did Russiagate have any impact whatsoever on how we handled the coronavirus? What is the relationship between these two factors? What? That is a crazy fucking stretch right there. Like, Well, if it weren't for the piss tapes back in 2017, then maybe Donald Trump would have been able to keep the virus from entering the country. What are we talking about?
Nothing but politics since day one. They've never accepted that President Trump was president. They were distracted from serving Americans. They were distracted during the pandemic, and now they've used the pandemic to try to fundamentally change this country and put the cost of big government on the back of hardworking Georgians. That's why I'm fighting to make sure.
Again, like, I know everyone who's watching me right now knows this bitch is a dumb fuck, but like, when she says stuff like this, change the country, there's nothing wrong with changing the country, and then put the cost of big government on your back. What does that mean? Big cost for what? What policies, what programs? You say the government wants to increase taxes. Where does the government want to put that money? Like, you say the Democrats want to raise taxes. Do you think they just want to raise taxes, then do nothing with the money? What do you think they want to do with that? You say they want to defund the police and raise taxes? That's going to, and defund the military? That's going to be a lot of money they're racking up. They're going to have the first budget surplus since the Clinton years. Where do you think that money's going to go? They never talk about this stuff. They don't care because they know you don't care either. They don't give a fuck about policy. They don't give a fuck about what they're saying. It's just about scaring the average person who's too dumb to realize they would benefit from better healthcare. It's amazing how America, which is supposed to be the country of rugged individualism, has been so convinced that they deserve to live in squalor because improving the country would be socialism.
That the Republican majority is retained in the Senate because we are the shock absorber for common sense policies.
I'm sorry. Vosh, there are millions of conservatives who don't know how taxes work. They think it's just the government arbitrarily taking money because they can. I actually think they think that, yeah. I actually think that a lot of Republicans legitimately believe that, like, high taxes are evil. It's an evil thing that Democrats do to hurt you. And low taxes are good. And it's the good thing that Republicans do to do good. They do good for you. I actually think they believe that. The roads just were born here. The public systems they rely on just exist. There's no connection. Bad take? I don't think so, dude. You can't be a Republican and be smart and moral. You have to be deficient in one of those categories. And I think a lot of Republicans are good people, which leaves only one explanation.
That bring Americans together, that lift everyone up, that provides for great educational choices for kids, that stops the radical agenda of the abortion on demand that Democrats want, that attacks our Second Amendment rights. They want to take away our guns. They want to tax guns, and they want to
tax guns. She's faltering. They want to take away our guns and tax guns and abort our guns. They want to tax our aborted guns. Falling apart. The wires are crisscrossing.
Fundamentally change America, and radical liberal Raphael Warnock is their agent of change.
Greg Bluestein, time for your question.
Yeah, Reverend Warnock, if Democrats do win control of the U.S. Senate, there will be pressure to increase the size of the U.S. Supreme Court. Would you support adding more justices to the Supreme Court to offset President Trump's recent appointments? And do you think there needs to be term limits for justices on the bench?
Ooh.
I want to.
That's a weird question because I don't know how much that actually like relates to the race that's being had. Do Georgians care about that? I don't know.
Point out that Kelly Loeffler actually voted to defund the police. She voted against the COPS program. She was one of only 10 United States senators who did. I don't think we should defund the police. But we certainly do need. Oh
shit! The tides are turning. Maybe I'll be going down to Georgia in my illegal Biden bus to vote for Kelly Loeffler.
Criminal justice reform. We need to make sure that we have an independent review process when civilians die at the hands of police. We need to make sure that police and officers and departments that have a pattern of misconduct are held accountable. We can do that and celebrate police at the same time. And as I move all across the state, Greg, people aren't asking me about the courts and whether we should expand the courts. I know that's an interesting question for people inside the Beltway to discuss, but they're wondering when in the world are they going to get some COVID-19 relief? They haven't gotten any from Kelly Loeffler in months. And when she had a chance to stand up for ordinary people, she thought $600 was too much. Meanwhile, she was busy dumping millions of dollars of stock, profiting from a pandemic. Who does that?
But
like
it
to
will
respond,
impact
please.
people on the ground.
Bit of a dodge. Rhetorically okay.
So I am wondering if you can answer the question, do you support expanding the Supreme Court?
I'm really not focused on it. And I think that too often the politics in Washington has been about the politicians. I'm a pastor, and so when I think about these issues, I think about the people that I've had to stand with in the critical care units while their loved one was dying or between life and death. And not only are they concerned about the sickness, they're wondering how in the world are they going to pay for it. If Kelly Loeffler has her way, 1.8 million Georgians with pre-existing conditions, that means people with hypertension, people with diabetes, folks who've had a stroke, cancer, people who are recovering from COVID.
This is less rhetorically effective.
Would not be able to get health care. I think that's morally wrong. And it's my faith that actually informs that. She can't explain why she wants to take away people's health care. She knows that that junk health care plan that she rolled out has a loophole in it big enough to drive a Mack truck through. She can't explain that, and so she's trying to misrepresent my record. But the people of Georgia understand. They understand the truth.
Senator, 30 seconds, please.
Yes. Look, you've just heard radical liberal Raphael Warnock lie.
I feel like she's actually, maybe this is the strategy. She's actually treating this debate as though she was a television anchor. Every time it's back to her, it's like, and you just heard from radical liberal Raphael Warnock. We're coming at you now with another question. Why is it that Democrats think it's okay to do stochastic abortions, going from house to house and randomly ripping out the wombs of pregnant women? Warnock, or like I feel, because she's not engaging with anything he's saying, so I feel like she's commenting on the debate she's in. Yeah, it's completely depersonalized, almost as though she's not an actual human being and she's just a set of pre-programmed functions embedded into the microchip implanted in the skull of a human woman, fucking stolen at 6 years old and raised in a government facility.
About my record, I've never voted to defund the police. In fact, I've voted to support more funding that the Democrats, of course, blocked. But he also is distracting from the fact that he would pack the Supreme Court. That's outrageous. Justice Ginsburg herself said 9 justices is the right number. He would pack the court with radical justices that would legislate from the bench to fundamentally override the Constitution and our laws in this country. And Georgians need to know that is wrong for Georgia and our country.
Would you like 30 seconds to respond?
Well, I believe in the Constitution. This is the greatest system on the planet. And our country is the only country where my story is even possible. I believe in our norms. I believe in the separation of powers, and I believe in the...
You guys are weird champing now, but I hope you realize that if I ever ran for office, which I never will, by the way, but if I ever did run for office, I would be assuming I could wipe my entire record, by the way. Like, I could fucking unperson myself. I would be the most aggressively patriotic motherfucker up there on stage. You wouldn't believe the shit I would say. Every single goddamn answer that I would give would be dripping with patriotism. My God. Oh, yeah. This is the United States of America, and let me tell you, people, nothing peeves me off more than when I hear my Republican counterpart over here say, we can't afford Medicare for all. This is America. We are the wealthiest country, the best country, the strongest country, the most moral country to have ever existed in the face of this God's green earth. Why do you think so little of us? Stuff works.
Nonviolent, unchaotic transition of power. Kelly Loeffler ought to stand with the people of Georgia. The 4 greatest words ever spoken in a democracy are the people have spoken. The people have spoken on the presidential election, and they're waiting on their senator to be focused on them, not the person in the White House.
Lisa Ram.
Senator Loeffler, given all the police violence we've seen against African Americans, consider this. Courtney Owens of Atlanta is worried about her son, her father, and her husband, all African Americans. She fears for their lives daily. You've called the Black Lives Matter movement fascist. You've alienated members of your own basketball team by talking about that stance, or taking that stance, rather. Is that still your view tonight after seeing and hearing how it hits home with so many people personally?
Listen, this lack of a mic guard, that's fascism right there, okay? That's the real fascism.
And what conversation would you sit down and have with Courtney Owens?
Well, the life of every African American is important, and there is no place for racism in
Isn't that just Black Lives Matter?
this country. Every African American is important, and there is no. Well, the life of every African American is important, and there is no place for racism in this country.
Yeah, there is.
But there are organizations.
There are many places, actually. One might even say that the place for racism, where racism exists in this country, is everything within the borders of the United States, actually. Descriptively, not prescriptively. Fuck you.
Number one goal is to defund the police. And we know that that hurts minority communities more than anyone. And we have to stand with our men and women of law enforcement. And I will always do that. You know, that's a distraction from the fact that my opponent does not stand with police officers. He's endorsed by organizations whose number one goal is to defund the police. He's called police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, a threat to our children.
I noticed that she didn't answer the question.
He's called for our prisons to be opened up and emptied out. He's called for the abolishment of the cash bail system. Look, he doesn't care about safety and security in any community, and I'm fighting to make sure that we have the resources to keep our communities safe and our police departments well-funded and well-trained.
Senator, thank you. Would you like to respond to?
Sure,
particularly about opening up the jails?
Well, listen. First of all, the land of the free is the mass incarceration capital of the world. We warehouse 25% of the world's prisoners. And people on both sides of the aisle know that our current criminal justice system...
Man, I know these are fine points and everything, but it's so frustrating that Democrats never go in for the kill. Republicans will just bring up lie after lie, scandal after scandal, never answer any questions. But Democrats, they constantly, they allow the Republican to dictate the narrative. It's so frustrating. They're so... it's not rhetorically weak. It's just they're not very aggressive. I feel it could serve them better sometimes.
Needs reform. And we saw that this summer, a multiracial coalition of conscience pouring out into American streets after the tragic deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many others. And what did Kelly Loeffler do? She used her enormous privilege and power as a United States senator to pick a fight with the black women on her team who know what it's like to grow up in a community where you have to have two talks with your children, one about the birds and the bees and the other about what happens if you're pulled over by police officers. To acknowledge.
So here's where I have to wonder about the demographics of voters in Georgia. Georgia's got a lot of black people. Actually, hold on. I don't actually know what the percentage is. No, not Georgia. No, the state of Georgia, not Georgia State. You fucking 58% white, 32% black. Yeah. So what I'm wondering is, like, generally speaking, these debates don't change people's minds about who they're going to vote for. It may possibly motivate people who were kind of undecided to go out and vote. So when you make comments like that, the talk you of black kids where you say, like, hey, police are kind of shit, that talk, don't know how much that line works on non-black people. Black people hear that and they're going to think like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember that. White people, I don't know if that resonates with them. In fact, to a lot of white people, it may sound like it's kind of being like a crybaby, you know? Because I can imagine that, like some kind of like white person doesn't really know much about race stuff, and then they hear like, oh yeah, black people have like that talk they have about the police, and then they're in their head they're like, really? Like, really? I wonder how effective that is with them, and I wonder what the demographics are of the types of voters they're going to try to pull out to this election. That's so stupid. Yeah, of course it's stupid. I'm not saying it's not stupid. I'm just saying that tends to be the case. Or I believe that tends to be the case. I'm interested in how effective that is.
Acknowledge that is not to condemn police officers in general. I've worked with police across the years. I've been invited to speak at their memorial services when they have when they've lost their lives in the line of duty. And she says she is against racism and that racism has no place. But she welcomed the support of a QAnon conspiracy theorist, and she sat down with a white supremacist for an interview. I don't think she can explain that.
May I respond?
Well, let me give you a chance to respond to that, and then we'll have one last question before we get to closing statements, please.
Well, that's incredibly sad, these comments that he's made. I mean, first of all, there's not a racist bone in my body. I have worked to bring communities together my entire life. But this is really terrible coming from someone who has divided people continually. He's called on America.
Can I respond to that by not responding to that at all? Yeah, okay, here you can respond to it. I think that what he just said is terrible, the way he said a bad thing about me. Anyway.
To repent for their worship of whiteness. He's called Israel an apartheid state and said that we should end military assistance. He's compared Israelis defending themselves against Palestinians. He's compared them to birds of prey. And he celebrated Jeremiah.
Wait, what? Birds of prey? Okay.
Right, an anti-American, anti-Semite. That's divisive.
Greg Bluestein, one last question.
Senator, should members of Congress be barred from trading stocks?
Look, what's at stake here in this election?
No answer.
Is the American dream.
No answer.
That's
you
what's
little
under attack.
Bitch, pussy.
When they attack me for a lie, a left-wing media lie, conspired with the Democrats by.
It's not a lie, by the way. It's a real thing that happened. I really wish these debates had fact checkers, because when she says that's a lie, and if she said that's a lie, and then a fact checker was like, "Excuse me, how do you say that's a lie? That actually happened. It's completely real." And then she like sputters. Oh God, I'd pay any amount of money. I'd vacate my entire fortune of all the money I got from this stream just to hear it. Oh God.
This is an attack on every single Georgian who gets up every day to work hard to provide a better life for their family, who wants to live the American dream. It's a distraction from the real issues, not the conspiracies in this election. What's at stake is the future of our country, our freedoms to live the American dream, to not be taxed into bankruptcy, to not have to go onto government healthcare, government-run healthcare. They want to take away the healthcare that 180 million Americans rely on through their work. That's why I've introduced a health care plan to make it more affordable, not government-run health care that would bankrupt those that rely on Medicare. And I'm going to continue to fight.
How would government-run health care bankrupt people on Medicare? Wait, how does that make sense? What, you could argue it would bankrupt the country. How would it bankrupt people on Medicare? What does that even mean? None of this means anything.
To keep our country free, to keep our borders secure, and make sure that our communities are safe and secure.
Reverend, you have an opportunity to respond.
Well, I mean...
Just say it. Say it. Say, I noticed she didn't answer the question, not that she's done that once. If you just did that once, oh my God, you... I know you're a man of the cloth, okay? I know you're probably not a confrontational guy, but if... it's so rhetorically effective. It doesn't even make you look bad.
The senator can't explain why the people of Georgia should send her back to the Senate. And so she's continued to misrepresent my record. She's lied not only on me, but on Jesus. I mean, everybody's clear about what that passage is about in Matthew. You can't serve two masters. And she should have listened to the lesson. Maybe she wouldn't be so focused on herself. She'd be thinking about the people.
The problem that I have with this, fundamentally, this is the thing that really pisses me off about this, though, and this is why I don't like religion and government. If you can't serve two masters and you're religious, why should I ever vote for you? You'll serve God above the interest of your people. If you're an elected representative, you're a servant to the public will. If you're saying you can't serve two masters, you're basically admitting that you'll prioritize God over your job. Like, that's the problem. That's why I don't like this line very much. I wish that he would drop it. Not that any of the people in Georgia give a fuck, because they're probably all super religious, so they're all jerking off to this right now. But for me personally, that's the thing, you know? If you have like a undying faith in God's existence and in adherence to the rules that God has laid down, I don't know how like well I can trust you to adhere to like material arguments about the world and the needs of the people.
She's supposed to represent. I intend to center.
Wait, hold on. What are you saying? God doesn't want human servants. You're actually insane. What the fuck are you talking about, Tron Panda? What the fuck does that have to do with what I was saying? God doesn't want human servants. First of all, you don't know what the fuck God wants, okay? Second of all, I'm pretty sure that God does encourage people to pray to him, right? In the Bible, I'm pretty sure. Third of all, considering the fact that divine command ethical theory literally relies on your belief that epistemically God's word is the source of good in the universe, I'm pretty sure serving that word is nothing. This is a bait comment. I don't know.
The concerns of the ordinary people that I've been running into all across this state, particularly in rural Georgia.
Reverend, thank you.
Why would you complain about him talking to black people since it wouldn't resonate with voters, but then complain about him talking about God, which definitely resonates with voters in Georgia? You can talk about God without implicitly acknowledging the criticism of religious people that they're ultimately deferential to religious authority above the authority of their public office. Also, I wasn't talking optics there. I was just complaining as an edgy atheist. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to respond.
Well, we're out of time. I apologize, but you're going to have a chance for a closing statement here in a moment. That is all the time we have for questions. The candidates now have 60 seconds for a closing statement. Senator Loeffler, you get to go first.
Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in to this important debate. You can see what's at stake. There are two visions for our country. Mine, the American dream. My opponent, socialism. This is what's on the ballot January 5th, the American dream. I was born and raised on a farm. I grew up working in the fields. I built my career. I became a job creator right here in Georgia. And I have been blessed to live the American dream. But Chuck Schumer said it best. Now we take Georgia, then we change America. They would increase our taxes, open our borders, socialize our health care. And my opponent, radical liberal Raphael Warnock, is his agent of change, someone that has falsely used the Bible to attack our military. The Bible never said that that you can't serve God and in the military. He's attacked our police officers. He wants to fundamentally change America into a socialist country. Well, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm working hard for every single Georgian. I'm Kelly Loeffler. I'm asking for your vote on January 5th. Thank you, and may God bless America.
Thank you, Senator. Reverend Warnock, your closing statement.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. I'm Raphael Warnock. I'm one of 12 children in my family, and I'm number 11, the first college graduate. Listen, these are dark.
How long do you think the GOP will be able to get away with their culture war BS on taxes? Forever. For as long as the sun continues to provide heat and energy to our solar system. The problem is, as long as they have control of like the media, they are always going to be able to do this. And they do have control. The first thing that we need to do, by the way, is take back the schools, okay? Universities tend to be fairly progressive, but like grade school education is generally based on textbooks made by conservatives, okay? We need critical thinking and sociology courses being given in high school. Bar line, I can tell you at least 5 subjects taught in high school that are less important than sociology. In fact, I'd put sociology above mathematics easy. Everyone should be able to understand sociology. Mathematics, generally speaking, is only used by people who go into specific fields. Oh yeah, I'd defend that easily. I think we need both, but I think it's more critical to teach people sociology foundationally. Which sociology? Oh, just baseline stuff. Not like crazy hardcore stuff, but yeah, baseline stuff. Cringe take? Nope. You just triggered me? Yeah, because a lot of you STEM majors in chat think I'm saying mathematics isn't important. That's what you're hearing right now. Because you didn't take a sociology class, you're not capable of understanding the meaning of my statement. So you're thinking like, yeah, you saying math's not important. Yeah. If only you'd taken a sociology class, you'd better be able to parse the meaning of my words. It's my Peter laugh. I scorn you.
Dark and difficult times. And amidst the thick fog of this pandemic and the economic turndown, even during
Vosh, you do need to teach math because you need to be able to teach people to think logically. First, wait, learning math doesn't teach you to think logically. Math in high school just teaches you to memorize equations and formula and get a little bit better with numbers. Second of all, sociology is infinitely better at applied critical thinking, or like teaching applied critical thinking, than mathematics is.
In this season of joy, it's hard for people to find joy. I think about my dad in a moment like this. God bless his memory. He used to wake me up every morning at dawn and said, get ready, get dressed, put shoes on. It was dawn. And so it was morning, but it was still dark. It's dark right now, but morning is on the way. It's our job, Georgia, to put our shoes on and get ready. Because there are those who are engaged in the politics of division. They have no vision, and so they engage in division. Tomorrow is the last day to register. Tell everybody you know to make a vote plan, because health care is on the ballot, workers are on the ballot, voting rights is on the ballot, criminal justice reform is on the ballot, and if you give me the honor of representing you in the U.S. Senate, I'll be thinking about Georgia every single day.
Thank you very much.
Oh, God, they're all so mad. They're stirred up like hornets in the chat. We're not even watching the fucking thing anymore.
Reverend and Senator. Before we conclude this debate, everyone involved in tonight's production sends their condolences to the Loeffler campaign.
Bosh, you can't say math's more important than sociology if sociology requires an understanding of statistics. I assume you mean less important. Also, low-level sociology doesn't require an understanding of statistics. Oh, God. We'll clarify this take in a second. There are a lot of triggered as fuck stem cells in chat right now. Oh, God. They're so mad.
And to the family of staff member Harrison Deal, who was killed in a car accident on Friday.
Oh.
Our thoughts are with the family. They're with you. We're very, very sorry. We'd like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, January 5th. Absentee voting has already begun in Georgia, and early voting in Georgia begins December 14th. Thanks to the candidates and to the panel for participating.
Nice meme. All right, Kelly Loeffler is a robot, and Raphael Warnock seems like a pretty cool dude. All right, how are we doing, people? Are we okay? Let's massage this point to all of you, okay? So here's the way education works. You work on foundational skills. So, okay, when you go to university, there are two types of courses you can take. You take general education, or you take courses which are specific to the major that you're going for, right? That makes sense? General education is essential for everybody. You don't want somebody so specifically leaning into one subject that they're utterly ignorant of basic life skills in other directions. GE is really, really important, okay? Now, I think that for a modern human being, you need to know basically everything, or at least you need to know a little bit about everything to be a functional member of society. You need to know at least a bit of math. You need to know at least a bit of history. You need to know a bit of science. Society is really complicated. You need to be at least a little bit familiar with like basic educational subjects. I don't think it's acceptable for a person to be 0% informed on history. I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable for people to be 0% informed on like chemistry. I think everyone should have like a very basic understanding. It helps with life skills, but more importantly, what it does is it gives people the opportunity to know what they're going to be more interested in the future. Now, the extent to which we teach all these courses is like really, really arbitrary. What's the right amount of history everyone should be educated on? High school goes up to grade 12, right? Is a grade 12 education of history the right amount of history everybody should know about? What about mathematics? What about science? What about English? English is a weird thing, too. Nobody goes to English to learn the language of English. You know? Like, that's not... You go to English class to learn critical thinking and analysis about English text. So it's like, it's different. And then ESL exists. Yeah, I'm in English, like regular English class, not ESL. Jesus. Oh, God. There are a lot of people in chat. So you have to determine which skills are most essential and which skills should be prioritized. Now, I am biased because I'm a sociology major, but in my personal opinion, and a lot of you are Marxists, so you should agree, one of the most foundational skills people need in a society are ones which help them develop good political opinions. Because if you don't have that, at worst case scenario, like, you're utterly beholden to people more powerful and intelligent than you. If you're not given those skills, that's why you need history. I mean, amongst other reasons, you need to know some history. Otherwise, you're very, very vulnerable to being taken advantage of on like a systematic level. You know what I mean? So what helps with that? Well, history helps enormously. Science, it can be helpful for stuff like climate change. There are political issues that rely on a basic understanding of science. Same with mathematics. I want the average citizen to be able to understand taxes and like statistical analysis, not like high-level stuff, but at least to the degree that they know when they're being lied to. That takes math, you know? The issue that I have is that sociology, literally the study of societies, is probably the most essential skill to helping people understand and contextualize the world they live in and the political problems they're facing. Like, bar none. You have sociology and you have political theory. Political theory tends to be higher order stuff. Sociology tends to be a little bit more relatable. Now, it is frustrating to me that many people will go their entire lives, full education, without taking a sociology class. That's very frustrating to me because a lot of these people lack incredibly essential skills, like very, very, very basic skills when it comes to understanding the world around them. It's like, I think it's one of those essential like components of an education. To me, not teaching sociology in class, it feels like not even teaching math. It really does. It feels like there's like this huge gap, like this void. Imagine if you went to a country where math was never taught in school. There are still mathematicians and math fields and all that, but everyone learns it on their own. You can learn it in university, and you can learn it if you go on to like online websites or whatever, but you can't, it's not taught in high school. You don't get like prep work on it. You kind of touch on it a little bit. You touch on it a bit in chemistry and physics, but real pure mathematics, you don't touch on that at all until it's your graduate degree. Or I'm sorry, until it's you're going for your bachelor's in mathematics. Which is like not great. Same can be said about sociology. Well, that's my point. I think it's one of those core skills. Now, the reason why I said I would have sociology taught over math is because I do think it's important that everybody be capable of forming political opinions in an informed way. I think that's like maybe the most important life skill from like a civilizational perspective, right? I mean, it has to be up there at the very least. And for that reason, I think it should be highly prioritized. Stuff like critical thinking, sociological analysis, philosophy. Yeah, I think philosophy should be taught. It's funny, by the way, because the anti-intellectuals who don't like the idea of philosophy being taught are also the people who eulogize Western civilization, even though what they're doing is eulogizing the legacy of philosophers. What if you don't know anything about math beyond the basics? Let's face the fact of the matter that most people in their lives will only ever use arithmetic. Most people in their lives will only ever use arithmetic, and there are people whose jobs it is to subsidize ignorance in that respect. I didn't do my own taxes past year. I paid somebody else to do it. Even though I took statistics classes, I could do it if I wanted to. I'm very capable of doing it. I didn't want to. Why would I? You use math every day. What are you talking about? I'm sorry? When was the last time I used anything other than arithmetic? Can you guys think? Keep in mind, by the way, I'm not just any person. I don't work like I don't have like a conventional job. I have a job that involves analytics. I have a job that involves tracking data. I get millions and millions of hits to my site and to my channel. I track demographics, who watches what. I try to use this to develop information on what type of videos I should make or how I can modify my content in the future. I'm given a lot of info by YouTube to work with. And I use arithmetic in almost all of these cases. So that's a problem, though. Algebra is a useful skill that is actually helpful in day-to-day life if you're skilled at it. I'm not saying not. Oh, God. I'm not saying math's not helpful. When did I say that? The point that I'm making is that I think on a foundational level, it's abhorrent that we don't teach sociological stuff. I'm not saying math's not useful. I have scientist friends. Do you know how much respect I have for people who can do pure mathematics? Mathematics, here's the thing a lot of stem cells don't get. Mathematics is almost an art form. The purer it gets. Pure mathematics is very, very interesting. There are YouTube channels that you can look at. I'm forgetting their names right now, but if you go far enough with it, the way math works, you can find equations that describe not necessarily our world, but like the way our numbers work, the way prime numbers work, and you can find that they correspond. Oh, 3 blue, 1 brown is a good channel to that effect. There's another one that I enjoy. Oh, Veritasium, number file. Yeah. If you get far enough into it, and a lot of the mathematics they talk about in these channels are well beyond my comprehension. I guess I kind of follow them. Math is beautiful. You can start to see these patterns. And when you think about it, it feels like you're tapping into the underlying mathematical language of the universe in a purer sense than you can get by describing it with like poetry. And if you go even further than that, you recognize even mathematical formula and proofs are constructed. If you go far enough into mathematics, you realize that the language we use to describe the universe is as arbitrary as the selection of vocal noises we use to enunciate different words. The farther you go, the more abstract things get, and that's wild. That's crazy. So I want to make it perfectly clear, I have nothing but respect for mathematics and the help and the good that it does. Mathematics is art, and I love art. But for fuck's sake, mate, we need to teach sociology to kids. We need sociology. We need some type of critical thinking skill course. We need something, okay? We can't not have that, all right? It is necessary. Do you think it's more worthwhile to minor in sociology over political science? Well, it's a rivalry between the departments, so on my side, yeah, go sociology, baby. Can we remove English language arts? I don't know what that means. Probably not. I like education. When did you start saying mate? Are you catching Britbonger? Don't worry about it, okay? Anyway, the sociology that I want taught is low-level stuff. When I first took Sociology 101, that was in university. I didn't have an opportunity to do that before. Keep in mind, I only got into this whole political shit because in my senior year of high school, I had a comparative government course. That was more poli-sci than sociology. Still worthwhile, very related subjects. But with sociology, I didn't learn about it, not really, until college. And the Sociology 101, SOC 101, is really, really basic. You think I was being taught critical theory in SOC 101? Like, how would you describe the field of sociology? Like a summary? The study of society. It's that simple. Poli-sci, study of political theory. Philosophy, the study of thought, right? Philosophy is the study of thought, kind of, basically. Mathematics, study of math. Some people say philosophy is the study of wisdom. I don't know. It gets abstract. How about U.S. history? Is it resolvable or beyond repair? We should teach U.S. history. There's a little bit of bias in the textbooks. We can fix it. Nothing big. What were you taught in SOC 1? Well, again, this was in college, but it was just really, really, really basic stuff about non-essentialist sociological analysis. I'll explain this, if I may, please. Essentially, your most important skill in sociology is something called the sociological imagination. That's it. The sociological imagination. More important than anything else you're going to learn. And I would trade, by the way, if I had to choose, sociological imagination versus everything else I learned in my 4 years, easily the former, not the latter. See, a lot of people have a very essentialist perspective on life. If a thing is something, it is the way it is. Why is X X? Why is Y Y? Why do things work the way they do? Why is capitalism the system we live in? Why do politicians tend to behave this way? Many people just accept these things. And the reason they do that is because answering these questions requires an unbelievable... Here's a great question, guys. Here's a really, really great question, okay? Why do we get our food from the grocery store? It seems like a simple question because it's packaged there. Okay, well, hold on. No. Capitalism is a shallow answer, my friends. To answer that question, you need to go back centuries. You need to go back centuries to the root of how human beings initially got their food together, commodified it, distributed it. You need to run through political theory, you need to run through economics, you need to run through an unbelievable collection of interrelated disciplines. And only if you can do all of that do you even begin to understand the question. I don't know the totality of the answer. I would need to bring a historian and an economist here, and probably also an anthropologist. And then you have to ask, what about other societies' grocery stores? America's not the only country. What about grocery stores in Brazil? What about their history? Was it all commodified, exported via capitalism? What did it replace? The point I'm getting at here is that these questions are tough to answer, but what they aren't is essentialist. Everything is something for a reason. Nothing is the way it is just because people worked to make society the way it was. This planet was a wild jungle. Well, there were deserts and forests too, but until humans started to spread across it, we built everything we live in. And now we ask ourselves questions like, why do I have to wake up at 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday to go to work? And the answer to that question could be spelled out in multiple books. But it's an important question, isn't it? And a lot of people don't even think to ask it. A lot of people don't even think to question it. A lot of people don't even stop and wonder, why are things the way they are? The sociological imagination is a reflex that encourages critical thinking about things in our society. You have to imagine which conditions led to the systems we live in today. Does that make sense? That is what I want taught to high schoolers. I don't think middle schoolers would get it. I think this would be, it's not like history. History, you start basic. I think this high school course, one high school course. What about teaching international relations? Sure. That's like a higher level subject. I just think very foundationally, that's very, very important. It keeps us from being taken advantage of because our ignorance benefits other people, usually more powerful, wealthy, educated people. Vosh, that's not sociology, that's applying the scientific method to society. Nope, that is not what the scientific method is. But yeah. Institutional economics teaches this path dependency stuff. It's a niche school of econ, though. Most schools of economics aren't going to be as inquisitive as sociology will. There are some that are, though. The reason I quit poli-sci when I got to university, by the way, is because it wasn't as engaging for me. It didn't feel as inquisitive. It felt more descriptive than prescriptive, or prospectively prescriptive, I should say. Sociology isn't by its nature prescriptive. You can get into sociology, you can be a Nazi, a fascist, you can arrive at these conclusions through sociology. Critical analysis can be used to positive and negative ends. Sociologists, however, tend to be left-leaning for the same reason historians tend to be left-leaning. And that's because the more you understand the world, the more likely you are to agree with me. And I would like it if when I argue with people, more high schoolers, they grow up, they learn about this stuff, and then I argue with these adults, and they get this a little bit better. The guy I talked to the other day, the guy, he votes for Trump because of the culture war, but he can't explain any element of the culture war he disagrees with. It's a problem about asking too many questions where you're not supposed to, and too few questions where you are supposed to. Econ is the master discipline of the social sciences? No. Sociology is the master discipline of the social sciences. But economics is so closely linked to sociology that the term socioeconomics is, pretty ubiquitously used. But no. By the way, economics could be side by side with sociology as the central discipline of social sciences. The reason why it's not is because economics is usually used as a tool to reinforce pre-existing economic norms. When you go into an econ class, and I've taken econ courses, I'm sure some of you guys have as well, here's a hot question. Do they ask questions or do they tell you things? They tell you things. You go into an econ course, They tell you laws and rules that some of which are really do seem to be laws of the universe. Supply and demand, I mean, that's a pretty powerful force. But also constructs we developed, humans developed. They don't ask those questions. If they did ask those questions, it would be to the betterment of that discipline. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm coming off incredibly pretentious here. I really just wanted to explain why I feel sociology is important to teach in high school, but yeah, I'm sure you understand what I mean.